Chinese automakers are bringing vehicles starting at $25,000. Here's what happens to every car price in the country when they arrive. Canada's tariff on Chinese EVs dropped from 100% to 6.1% in January 2026. That opened the door for up to 49,000 Chinese-made electric vehicles per year. BYD is leading the charge with 20 dealerships planned across the country, starting in the Greater Toronto area and expanding to Vancouver, Montreal, and Calgary. But they're not alone. Chery is planning dealerships too, with a focus on SUVs through their Omoda JQ and Exeed sub-brands. Polestar and Volvo are importing Chinese-built models under the same quota, and companies like XPeng and NIO are watching closely for the right moment to enter. The quota system works on a first-come, first-served basis with no per-brand allocation. BYD, Chery, Polestar, and any other Chinese manufacturer all compete for the same 49,000 import permits. A second window opens later in 2026 for another 24,500 units. By 2030, the cap rises to 70,000. The first wave of vehicles is expected by late 2026. Demo units are already being shipped to potential dealer partners in Quebec and British Columbia, where EV adoption rates are highest. Toronto and broader Ontario follow in early 2027. So what does this mean for new car prices in Canada? The impact won't come from volume. 49,000 units across all Chinese brands is a small fraction of a market that sells over 1 million vehicles per year. It's not enough to flood dealerships. The impact comes from price anchoring. When a BYD Atto 3 sits on a dealer lot for $42,000 next to a Hyundai Ioniq 5 at $54,000, every single buyer who walks in will point at the BYD and ask why the Hyundai costs $12,000 more. Dealers feel that pressure immediately. Manufacturers feel it within months. Toyota, Hyundai, Kia, GM, and Ford will have 3 options. Cut prices on their EV lineups, add more features at the same price to justify the premium, or offer better financing like longer warranties, lower interest rates, or maintenance packages. All 3 responses benefit the buyer regardless of whether they choose a Chinese vehicle or not. This is not theoretical. It already happened in Australia. BYD entered the Australian market in 2022. Within 18 months, Hyundai and Kia adjusted pricing and incentives on their EV lineups. MG, which is Chinese-owned, became one of the top-selling EV brands in Australia by pricing aggressively below the competition. The average transaction price for EVs in Australia dropped measurably. Australia's tariff structure on Chinese EVs is almost identical to Canada's New Deal at roughly 5%. The vehicles BYD sells in Australia are the same models expected for Canada. The pricing patterns that played out there will repeat here, and these aren't cheap knockoffs. BYD sold 2.26 million battery electric vehicles in 2025. More than Tesla's 1.64 million. Their overseas sales alone topped 1 million units. Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway invested in BYD in 2008 and still holds a significant stake. This is the largest EV manufacturer on the planet, entering one of the few major markets it hasn't touched yet. But there's an important catch most people overlook. Chinese-built EVs don't qualify for Canada's new electric vehicle affordability program. That program replaced the old EVAP incentive in February 2026. It offers up to $5,000 off eligible vehicles priced under $50,000. But the vehicle must be manufactured in Canada or a free trade partner country. China is not a free trade partner, So a BYD Atto 3 at $42,000 with no rebate versus a Chevy Equinox EV at $47,000 with a $5,000 rebate narrows the gap to under $10,000. Still significant, but not the blowout that headlines suggest. For the Dolphin expected around $31,000, the math still works in BYD's favor, even without the rebate. It would be the cheapest new EV in Canada by roughly $8,000. Now here's where it gets really interesting. But wait until you hear what happens to the used car market. Used EV prices in Canada dropped over $1,700 in a single month recently. The largest monthly decline on record. The 2022 and 2023 off-lease wave flooded the market. Over half of used EVs now sell under $35,000. When brand new Chinese EVs arrive at $25,000 to $40,000, why would anyone buy a 3-year-old used EV with degraded battery health for roughly the same price? That question will reshape the entire used EV market. If you're holding a 2- or 3-year-old EV hoping to sell at a strong price, that window is closing fast. Gas vehicles won't be immune either. Gas prices have surged past $1.97 per litre. The federal government temporarily suspended the excise tax from April through September, but once that ends, prices jump right back. The cost to charge an EV runs between $23 and $54 a month. Gas costs between $165 and $230. That gap is widening every month. As EV prices drop and gas prices stay elevated, more buyers switch to electric. That reduces demand for gas vehicles, which pushes their resale values down too. A gas SUV that held its value during the pandemic shortage era may not hold that value when cheaper electric alternatives flood the market. The ripple effect touches every segment. New EVs get cheaper because of competition. Used EVs get cheaper because of new supply. Gas vehicles lose resale value because of shifting demand. Total cost of ownership shifts further in favor of electric every single month. The average Canadian spends $1,373 a month on car ownership. If Chinese competition brings that down by even $200 a month, that's $2,400 a year back in people's pockets. Across millions of Canadian households, that's a meaningful shift in national cost of living. Auto manufacturers will push back. Unions will lobby against Chinese imports. Politicians will face pressure from domestic producers. But the tariff deal is signed. The quota is in place. And the first vehicles are already on their way. Do you think Chinese EVs will actually bring prices down, or will tariffs and quotas limit the impact? Drop your take in the comments.